Welcome to You Brew Kombucha. Today I'm going to share my basic Scobie Hotel food recipe. If you homebrew kombucha, you're probably familiar with what a SCOBY Hotel is, which is basically just a receptacle or a home to house your scobies when you're not actively brewing a batch of kombucha. I go into a lot of detail about SCOBY Hotels, why you should build one, how you can get one started, and the pros. There aren't really any cons with keeping one, but all the pros of keeping a SCOBY Hotel if you are brewing kombucha consistently. And so I wanted to take some time to share my basic recipe for some SCOBY Hotel food, which is basically just sweet tea. I have a whole other video that walks you through how to make a big batch of SCOBY Hotel food from spent tea leaves or tea leaves that are already used if you used a bunch of loose leaf tea for a first fermentation batch of kombucha. But in this video, I'm just gonna focus on how to make just a basic cup of SCOBY Hotel food if you just need to add some sweet tea to a SCOBY Hotel to give it some extra food. So a really common question I get is, how often should I feed my SCOBY Hotel? And there are a couple of ways to go about doing this. If you brew kombucha on a frequent enough basis, at the end of each of your first fermentation cycles, you can just take 1 or 2 cups of that finished first fermented kombucha and add it straight into your SCOBY Hotel. And that will give the scobies some new fresh tea and sugar to feed off of and continue living. Another way that you can feed your SCOBY Hotels, if you're not actively brewing kombucha, or if you find that your liquid levels in your SCOBY Hotel are not very high and you just like some more starter tea in there. Just a reminder, starter tea is another word for kombucha that has successfully undergone fermentation, or another word for it is kombucha vinegar if it gets very acidic. All of those terms are interchangeable. But if you want to bump up the amount of liquid that you have in your SCOBY Hotel, if, say, the liquid has evaporated and your scobies are starting to dry out, or if you just want to have a stockpile of extra starter tea that you can use for future batches of kombucha, then this is the basic recipe that I like to use when I am feeding my SCOBY Hotels. You can find a bunch of different recommendations on the internet about how much tea and how much sugar you add to your SCOBY Hotels. A good rule of thumb is just make sure that it has some tea and some sugar. I don't really get precise about it as long as I'm feeding them on a regular enough basis and the liquid isn't completely evaporating. But my recipe is for each cup of water, you can either add 1 black tea bag or a teaspoon of loose leaf black tea. Just let it steep, let it come to room temperature, and then add it to your SCOBY Hotel. And you can scale that recipe up as much as you want, depending on how much liquid you want to add to your SCOBY Hotel. But that's basically the recipe for it. And if you want more details about how to build and maintain a SCOBY Hotel, do check out that video. I'll add a link to it down in the description box below. And if you have any questions, check out my website, youbrewkombucha.com. And if you're not already following me on Instagram, I'm at youbrewkombucha. Happy brewing!